totality of that.
Okay. We just had a countdown, so we're live. So welcome everybody to this week's roundtable with Joey's Legacy. We've got with us in this roundtable, of course, we have Scott Fine with us, which is the founder of Joey's Legacy. None of us would be here without Scott. So Scott, welcome.
Hi, Carrie. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Like we always say, we wish we didn't have to do this, but thank God that you did this and got us going. So
thank you.
We all appreciate it. Scott wouldn't be able to have this organization without the support that he has and the desire to get some laws changed. So of course we can't get laws changed without some of our attorneys. So tonight we also have with us attorney Lauren Turner. Lauren, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me again. Hi, Scott. I heard your buddy barking back there a second ago.
Oh no, that's mine.
That wasn't
sorry.
That was Dr. Robb.
That's okay. I listen. I heard a dog. I'm going to say hi to the dog and hi to everybody else second.
Yeah.
You're going to probably hear my dog barking pretty soon too. So. So Scott has put together this fabulous group of people that consists of some media help, some authors, we have documentarians, and of course we have our attorneys, and we absolutely need our veterinarians to support us. So with us tonight, we also have Dr. Robb Cannizzaro. Dr. Cannizzaro, hi, how are you?
I am great, thank you. Hello, everybody. You guys are fantastic, and thank you so much for having me back again.
Oh.
And Lauren, I love hearing you, and I love hearing all the time.
It's just such a pleasure to work with people who are just so passionate to be here week after week. I know Scott's day after day after day, but to see the same attorneys and the same veterinarians showing up and saying, "Look we got to make some change," is just amazing. So we're here helping everybody. So. One of the things I like to get started with before we get going, and I ask this at the beginning of every single roundtable that we do, and I ask this because sometimes we have new people that are coming into Joey's Legacy and are just trying to learn what's going on, and that is, Lauren, if you could define for us veterinary malpractice.
So veterinary medical malpractice, much like any other malpractice, is just when somebody does something to an animal that goes outside of the standard of that profession, right? So it is normal for a veterinarian to give shots at 8 weeks. A veterinarian gives shots at 6 or 2 weeks. You now have med mal. Something's happened that's just totally outside of the standard of the industry. Industry standard is I think in most states gonna be that bar, that line.
Okay. Can I just really quick, does somebody have some background going, or they might have the live feeding? We're getting some background. Lori, do you hear that? Is it me? Lori? It might be Scott. We lost Scott, so it might have been Scott.
I'm here.
Nope. We lost you in the camera vision.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a lot of background talk. Lori, can you hear that? I don't know if I lost Lori. Can you guys hear it?
No.
I can't. It sounds like well, that's my dog barking or sneezing, but it sounds normally like it sounds like a radio is on in the background or a TV.
Yeah. I just didn't know if other people could hear that, so I was trying to figure out what it is. Maybe Lori can help us out when I don't hear her, so I don't know. So we'll just go on. So the reason it's important for us to define veterinary malpractice is because sometimes when pet parents are just emotional and something happens with their animals, they just want it to be the veterinarian's fault. And that could lead you down a path of spending a lot of money on attorneys and doing those things if you don't totally understand what veterinary malpractice is. So I think it's important that we get to that. One of the next questions I always ask our veterinarians, because I think people are shocked to hear this, and I know I've asked you this before, Dr. Cannizzaro, but have you ever witnessed veterinary malpractice?
Yes, absolutely. I have.
Yeah, me too.
Sadly, I have.
It is sad. And there hasn't been a veterinarian yet that I've asked that has said no. So one of the questions I ask a lot of our veterinarians is if they've witnessed it. And if the other question I ask is, do you think that people are victim of veterinary malpractice and don't even know it?
Absolutely, they are. And I had a very painful case like that, and I'm embarrassed to say, because I was dependent on the job that I had, I witnessed that very thing where, the veterinarian definitely exercised well below the standard of care. The pet died, and he flowered things up about how hard, and et cetera, et cetera. And the client sent this glowing, lovely card of, thank you so much for doing everything you did. I just felt like I wanted to vomit, and it was very painful. And, it was around the time that I was working on building my practice, and I knew it was so clear I want to be a sole practitioner that I couldn't do that anymore. And I just couldn't be quiet anymore. And, he didn't even take a misstep. He was a very good businessman, but not veterinarian. And I learned a lot of business acumen from him. But as far as medicine, not at all. And, I'm sure there are cases I don't even know about, out of that same practice. It's extremely difficult. And I want people to understand that when veterinarians are associates or independent hires, that that's a tremendous amount of pressure on that veterinarian that witnesses that as well. It's something that we'll take to our graves. And I slap my thing. Yeah, I guess so, but that was not my client. So what do? Do you turn the vet into the board? Writing your paycheck. So it's not as easy as you think, and it's extremely emotionally difficult. I really had to come home and do a cleansing over that, and this was a puppy. This need to die, and I just completely heartbreaking. I mean, I could go into the details of it.
No, we see
I
it.
tried meeting with the vet a little bit too, by the way, but I had to tread carefully. And at least he gave the puppy a small blood transfusion. It was not enough, but even going to, and he was going to take the puppy to surgery with no. It was heartbreaking. Truly, it was. And that puppy died alone in that veterinary hospital after surgery with no one there. And it's another one of those phenomena, it's that silent untruth where you just don't talk about, they lie about, tech steps, stops in and checks on the pet, and nobody came in and checked on the pet. I mean, the puppy was dead the next morning, or found dead the next morning. So
that is one thing I would say a lot as a vet. It's okay. No, it's why we're here, and that's why a lot of the veterinarians like yourself that are willing to speak up, or the vet techs that are willing to speak up, it's because we've seen it and we couldn't stop it. And for me, sometimes, I talk to a lot of vet techs, and I talk to a lot of kennel attendants, some of which work with me to this day, who have witnessed neglect and abuse and veterinary malpractice and didn't speak up for sometimes it's just because you're so young and you're not even sure that's what you saw when you saw it until you get older and go, wait a second, that isn't what was supposed to happen. So a lot of times people in the industry don't speak up for any number of reasons why they're not speaking up. And so it continues, and veterinarians, and sometimes the malpractice is because of a vet tech. But
because it was the first, I always stayed out of his patient business, and he didn't always stay out of my patient business, but that's okay. He was the owner, so he had a right to look in on what I was doing. But it was extreme. It was the first time that I stepped in and tried to. I felt very, not only as a woman, but also as a contractor, and I job, and it was hard to say, well, gosh, that's important. And what could I do in that moment in time? And virtually it would have been nothing. It was his case. And it wasn't like he was going to say, well, here, you take it. And, I would have, but that's not how it works in the practice. I mean, your cases are your cases. And sometimes you'll share cases, but, in this particular situation, we just didn't. And he did a little bit of what I suggested, but, it was not nearly enough. So I just, there's definitely painful moments in my career, and I hope that they make me, certainly didn't take the pain away for the client. And the client, Had no idea. No
Had no
idea at
idea.
all. No idea. I'm sure
Lauren-
it doesn't to this.
Lauren, is veterinary malpractice, does malpractice have to always lead to death? Can it be malpractice and not have an animal die? Ooh, we lost you.
I'm sorry. I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Did you hear
Sorry.
my question?
Huh?
Did you hear my question?
Yes. No, it doesn't always have to lead to death. So we have a really recent one, actually. Now, this wasn't negligence by a veterinarian. This was negligence by a boarding facility that stated that they could care for special needs animals. So my client brought in his husky named Nanook, who already had kind of back wheels. You know, these bigger dogs, they have the dysplasia. So he already had back wheels, but his two fronts were working. They left him there for a week, and when they went to pick him up, one leg had been torn up. Clearly, there had been some sort of an incident. So he could no longer stand on his front legs. And yesterday, they put him down because for the last week, he's been, down, and he got bed sores that were too bad, and he just wasn't going to be able to recover. So it caused the death eventually, but I mean, it doesn't have to. I mean, this was just sheer negligence. I think I have 3 animal boarding facilities that do like groom board and say they have a vet on staff, like they have like somebody on staff for emergencies, and they read the same way. It's always dehydration, it's always outside, and it's always like multi-system organ failure and or traumatic. Like I don't even have to write new complaint. My clients get it so cheap because I don't have to write new lawsuits. I just copy and paste.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing. That's not a good. I mean, I guess it's good for the client's wallet, but it's not good for me to or them. It shouldn't be that easy.
Yeah. No, it's Scott and I have talked about this before, because as Joey's legacy continues to grow, as it sadly is growing quite rapidly. And I know that for those of you who don't know, Scott started Joey's legacy because he lost his dog Joey, who is a beautiful dachshund, to veterinary malpractice. But as Scott, somebody who outside of the vet world, like Dr. Cannizzaro and myself, has learned that this goes much further than just veterinary malpractice. We're finding it in boarding facilities. We're finding it in grooming dog walkers. I mean, Rover.com, we just had somebody on just the other day who's using Rover.com, and his dog died from heat stroke. And so the bigger picture here, as Scott and I, right, Scott, we've talked about, is changing the laws that would protect our animals in any environment outside of even a veterinary hospital, that the animal itself becomes a companion animal and is no longer seen as property, right, Scott? So it's something you're learning. This is not just veterinarians. This is a lot of people who are caring for your animals who are not caring for them at the standard of care, which is what you're talking about, Lauren, is that, you know, for an animal to be dehydrated and have heat stroke, that's definitely below the standard of care. And so it doesn't have to happen in a veterinary practice. So
healthy and come out. This is where the breach of bailment comes in, Scott, because you and I were talking about how to kind of overcome that animals are property issue with vet med melanin. The answer has really been breach of bailment. I brought my dog to you healthy and you gave it back to me sick, whether it lives or dies. It's like an old gritty cause of action from way back in England, but we're resuscitating it. It's still, it works. It's there, and that's how.
Yeah, it's a fine line, though, and I know we've all talked about this on the show before. Well, it's not really a fine line, but sometimes people think that if your animal, I've been victim of this. Someone walks in with what they think is a healthy animal, right? And the dog's with me for a week, and then those things come up during that stay. Maybe because they're under stress, maybe not because it's stress that we're causing, but just because the dog's in a boarding facility and you didn't know he had an underlying hurt problem. So you get these situations that have to be, and this is why Joey's legacy is so great, because you get the veterinarian and the attorney looking at these and going, wait a second, this may not be the boarding facility's fault. or the veterinarian's fault. It just was bad timing. And sometimes walking into a vet hospital, I'm sure Dr. Cannizzaro can say this, it's so stressful on an animal. I mean, they don't want to be there necessarily. And so some things can arise from that. Don't you agree, Dr. Cannizzaro?
Absolutely. As a homeopathic veterinarian, we understand that symptoms of illness, of chronic illness, can occur at any time that there is a stressor. And a stressor could be a divorce in the family. It could be the death of their companion that they were close to. Or not. It could be boarding. It could be going to the vet office. It could be undergoing. It could be any of those things. Two things come out of that is that you are right that sometimes the veterinarian facility, boarding facility staff are not necessarily at fault. And the other part of it, at least from my perspective as a veterinarian or as a homeopathic veterinarian, is, proceed with extreme caution, because chronic diseases do not always present themselves as overtly evident. You can have latent chronic disease the surface of detection, and detection if the animal undergoes it, like anything that was mentioned. The other thing is that that sometimes, unfortunately, in our traditional medicine, we see a lot is considered a tolerance of symptoms. In other words, they'll say, "Oh, well, that's normal if your dog drinks a lot of water." For a really long time, but that doesn't mean that that is an average, and I don't like to use the word normal in my practice because there's no such thing as normal. It doesn't mean that is an average symptom. And so we as veterinarians, and I'd encourage boarding facilities, attention and don't assume for another veterinarian to say that we should just dismiss it and not do proper anesthetic blood work or not use exercise extreme caution when you're caring for that animal, because any symptom that is outside of average as a homeopathic veterinarian not be a standard by a homeopathic. Any symptom that is outside of average should be considered ought to be looked into, investigated, and or treated. If you can find the cause, we can find the causes or this collection of symptoms, and that's how we treat. So to do diagnostic tests and things like that. So never assume. That will help us in all aspects, because we'll be able to help, and we'll also be able to help ourselves and about things that we shouldn't honestly be surprised about. So I hope that helps to answer your question, and a little extra.
Yeah, no, it's awesome that it's we're trying to teach people how to help prevent this, and also Scott, we all talk about this. Most veterinarians are really just out here to do the best job that they can do. And so we have to be really careful with doing the blame game, because then you never really get to the real cause. And if you have an animal who hasn't passed away and you just want to blame the veterinarian and you're not looking at the real cause, you may never help the animal. So we have to be really careful blaming everybody. It's hard, Lauren, for you and I and Dr. Cannizzaro. We're seeing all of these stories, and you just want it to be everybody. You feel like it, right? Like I feel like, oh my God, everybody's doing wrong. But then the bigger picture is, no, it's not everybody. It's just we're being inundated with it. So we have to be careful. Lauren, can you tell us what the law? I know you're in Florida, and I know you practice law in Florida, but my understanding is it's mostly across the country. Scott, I think you can help us on that. But can you tell us what the law is right now? How are pets seen as in the eyes of the law right now?
Property. A lamp.
Straight off property.
Straight up property, except for in two circumstances. I know I've brought them up to you before. This is how it is in Florida, and this is how it is in at least 15 other states. If something happens to your animal, they're going to treat it like property damage, unless it was completely malicious, i.e. the case of a garbage man crushing a dog with a garbage can in front of the owner. Like, clearly that was meant to cause emotional harm. So that went beyond the regular, it's a property thing statute. And the other was when it was such a high degree of gross negligence that it was considered to be so far below the professional standard bar that I was talking about earlier, and in that case, it was a veterinarian who had done surgery on a dog and left the dog night, and the dog suffered such severe burns that the dog had to be destroyed. Was what the case law used, but and that standard was so low, so below par that they considered that to be able to be IIED damages. But for the most part, you can't. IIED is intentional infliction of emotional distress. I'm sorry. You can't get emotional distress damages for your lamp breaking, and that's how it's typically seen.
Is Dr. Cannizzaro, do veterinarians, is it legal for them to leave pets overnight without anybody there?
It's legal to do that. I think that if someone were going to do that with an animal that was in critical condition, I think that they are for as far as I'm concerned. And whenever I practiced in traditional veterinary medicine, if I did a surgery or I was concerned about an animal's welfare because they were quite ill or critical, I would transport to the emergency clinic overnight. It's inconvenient, and it makes the clinic look a little bit like, well, why aren't you full service, or why isn't there somebody overnight? But at the end of the day, we have to have it, whether it's our own practice or other, and we have to put the animal's welfare. And so if you're worried you might lose a client because it looks like you just don't provide the 24-hour service, most day clinics don't. And for listeners to know that unless that clinic advertises that they are 24/7, then they're there overnight with your pet, period. And you need to know that. And if they tell you otherwise, it's possible they're stop in, but I can tell you, I've been around doing medicine for a very long time. I can't chewed through tubes in 2 seconds, gotten their Elizabethan collar off and pulled their urinary catheter out, bleeding all over the cage. I'm sure that's not life-threatening, but still, they could wrap, I haven't seen it, but there are animals that could wrap the IV tube around their neck and get strangulated. That all can happen. If you have a tech stop in, even once or twice in the evening, that could happen in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So there is no reason to hospitalize. If your pet is sick enough to be hospitalized, your pet needs to go to a facility where there will be a technician's eyes on your pet all night long, and all night, all morning, all week. And I don't even think it's absolutely essential. Advocate for your pet. I tell my clients all the time, sadly, not just about overnight stays, because fortunately my clients rarely need that, but it could happen. But I always tell my clients, you have to, unfortunately, then you should have it so that you can protect your pet, because you're not always going to know the truth. And there will be impressions left on the table. With COVID and curbside service, really advocate for your pet, because you are so far away from what's going on with your pet, and observe what's going on. So take anything for granted, ask questions, don't be your pet's welfare. And if your pet gets strangulated by an intravenous tube, that's it. I mean, you can't go, gosh, I wish I hadn't left my pet there overnight. Some pets they can have their IV catheter capped off and come home for the night, so they can be observed by their people if they're stable enough, and then go back in in the morning. If they're not, go to a 24/7 facility. Just do it. It's inconvenient, but do it. And it doesn't mean it just means that that's the best, well care for your pet. So do it. Push for it.
Back when so we're going back many, many years, but when I was a vet tech, it was very standard to not have a veterinarian there overnight. I didn't know a single clinic that had somebody there overnight. Has that changed?
I didn't either.
Because my question is that standard of care? So Lauren, would we have a problem if you had an animal die overnight if the pet was under the veterinarian's care and it's 3 vets down the street don't have night care and the pet dies, is that going to be considered malpractice since nobody else is doing it?
Mm-mm.
Ugh.
In
Yeah.
and of itself, no. And you know what's so funny?
Yeah,
It's,
I think it depends on the circumstance. I would say that it depends on the severity of the pet. If it's a routine spay and everything went well, in the record, you're surprised and you find the pet passed away overnight, done just make in surgery. But I think it's going to depend on the severity. Is my opinion.
no,
as a veterinarian,
that's right.
I would,
If they take on something that's severe and special, no, you're not wrong, Doc. You're not wrong at all. That's absolutely right. The first thing that this whole conversation triggers is me is the 4th of July. Like, I've got a bunch of people who travel out of town for the 4th of July, and they come back and they've boarded their dogs at a facility, sometimes a vet, especially for rescue, like.
Yep.
Board with veterinarians and they'll have that. I mean, the kennel, it's a smaller typically, so that if they have certain, they don't hurt themselves or move around or have too much. I've seen some really horrible things happen to dogs trapped in confined spaces over the 4th of July with no one there to calm or comfort or put on music or a TV or give water. You are so right, Dr. Cannizzaro. You're exactly right. My first instinct though was to like jump to that circumstance where it's like, and that wasn't found to be neglect, because I mean they were just boarding, but that would be a severe enough. You would just think that someone would
obviously not leave a dog alone on 4th of July weekend. Exactly. And that's where we get back to, we have to raise the standard, because what an animal can die from, and then the law says, well, that's just how it's done. People leave dogs in vet hospital. We have to raise our standard so that that's not acceptable. And you would think that people would be raising the standards on their own, but they're not. Dogs are left in boarding facilities, daycare. There's a place right by me that leaves the dogs all night long in her grooming shop. They're just running around. I go by there to get tacos, and I see these dogs just in the worst situation. No one's there. There's poop and pee all over the place. They're just running around. I'm like, okay. And, she's been closed down 3 times and keep opening up under a different name 2 doors down.
I was going to say Giardia.
Giardia is of the worry I'm worried about.
There could be a dog fight. Nobody's there, and somebody's
the
dog
cages could fall on them. Chew a cord. Like, there's so many things. Hopefully Giardia is the only thing they walk out of there. Hopefully they walk out of there. But yeah, so Lauren, one of the questions, do you think if we're looking at an animal as property, the same as a toaster, could a veterinarian find themselves in a situation where it's better to have the dog die than to spend a lot of money trying to save the dog if in fact it was their fault? Meaning, I don't know if I'm making sense. The vet would end up trying to save the dog's life, costs maybe $6,000 to save the life that he's negligent for. If the dog dies, he's only negligent for the $50 that they paid for the dog, correct? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. So I've got an ongoing case. I guess I'll throw it out there really vaguely as to not violate anybody's privacy, but I've got an ongoing case. Maybe as a case study we could use. Couple brings dog into 24-hour vet, really well-regarded 24-hour vet. Dog needs some sort of procedure, gallbladder, something or other. But they say it's got a 95% success rate. No blood work is run. Dog gets procedure. Dog goes into septic shock and dies very slow, painful death over a couple of weeks. And weird things happen, right? Like they go in, they're like, get better, it's gonna get better. The dog starts having seizures. They're like, no, we didn't see that. And then the dog has pneumonia, and they took the dog out of this facility and brought it to a homeopathic vet. And that's how they found out the dog had pneumonia. And then, kind of on top of all of that, there was a hyperbaric chamber treatment that the dog could have received that they think could have possibly helped. That was never offered because that facility doesn't offer it, even though the veterinarian worked at another facility that does. Like, $1,000, their dog died anyways. I mean, I'm going after it because but I mean, really, even though the vet knew that there were other things that even though they missed a diagnosis and they knew that the hyperbaric chamber possibly could have helped and they omitted to offer that, like, they still did everything they could. And that's usually how these things are, you know, like they're never, oh, maybe I could save the dog, but it would cost them money and they'll be mad about the money, versus, oh, I could just let the dog die and then they'll be sad the dog died and then sue over the dog. I mean, your question's complicated.
I'm having a hard time what I'm worried about is that if it's cheaper for the vet to let the dog die than it is to save the dog and have to, you know, can you get a veterinarian in a situation where it's like, oh man, I severed this artery, and if they find out I severed this artery during this and the dog might be handicapped, for example, the rest of his life, that could cost me more than if I just let this dog die. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm worried that,
I mean, unless there's IIUD damages, you're typically limited to the property value. I mean,
yeah,
if it's I've got a case that's going to trial. You're my witness on it. I got a case that's going to trial on a one-eyed stray cat. This cat can't be worth the $10.
right.
One-eyed stray cat they saved and died while it was getting a flea bath, you know, but you still got to take it, because even if I'm not going to make any money on it, like, you got to make the point. But
right.
I mean, yeah, Dr. Cannizzaro, I really, it should be a question for you, because I guess it's like asking an insurance company.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because one of the other vets that was on the show before had mentioned that they saw a situation like that where the vet said, you know, I'm better off if this dog dies. And so I'm concerned that could be something other vets may think, that they're better off if the dog dies than if they have to go to the owner and spend a lot of money in there. I'm sure those would be rare cases that they would happen, but I feel like if we had more value to the whole life of the animal, not just the procedure, because right now the procedure is worth something, but what about the life of the animal being worth something?
Yeah, I mean, of course.
I think it's likely that with that scenario, most veterinarians, if they make a mistake, are I assume my colleagues are human, and I them are. If they made a mistake, they would be operating under a tremendous amount of guilt, and guilt will drive the veterinarian to do whatever to save the pet. And I don't want to say that my colleagues aren't smart or trying to, you know, figure out a clever way out of things. I think, oh my God, I'm going to do everything I can to save this pet. Yeah. I think that would be a more likely response than. I think I understand what you're asking, but I'm not going to say it doesn't occur to any vets, because I'm sure that, you know, the one that I worked with for a while, and maybe he just hid things well, but seemed to have his body. And so I don't know, you know, maybe that would be something that would occur to him. I'm sure there are some people out there that, or veterinarians out there maybe, that would react that way, but I would think it would be the other way, more like Lauren is talking about in the case that we're looking at, where they're trying to do everything. And I don't know, likely the vet was operating on panic mode or whatever and didn't even think about the hyperbaric chamber. And vets will not think of going around trying to do whatever they can to save the animal's life. and they make additional mistakes when they do that.
Yeah, I think it's rare. I heard about that one case, and I just thought, God, is that something that we also have to worry about? Somebody kind of making this poor decision based on the cost of having the pet live versus having the pet die, and what that would do. And
I will
where I think the question comes up, which that question may come up more, is with serious illness, if a veterinarian a character judgment about a client spending money on that might have a guarded or poor prognosis. That's a situation where a veterinarian might steer a client toward youth when the client isn't ready, and or that maybe the pet rival, or maybe they referred that case, and I'd love for Lauren to take this on, to an acupuncturist or even a specialist. We need to give our clients, we can't size them up and say, I feel, Mr. or Ms. So-and-so, they're in their 80s, and this is just going to be too expensive for them. That's not our job to make that assessment. Our job is to give all of the potential possible options and allow that client to, that is something that they do or that they want to do for their pet, and be as honest as we can be. Because at the end of the day, as veterinarians, we honestly can't give an absolute prognosis. And especially as a homeopathic veterinarian, I see cases that have given up. Veterinarians, so forget it, just go, and forget about it, nothing can be done. And some of these cases turn around beautiful treatment, and the people get mad or angry at the other vet. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if they had referred the case? Some of them come too late. So people, it doesn't matter what the oncologist says, your pet has 2 months left. We have no idea, especially if you do homeopathic medicine, they may live longer and a better life. They may not. I can't say for sure, but giving a prognosis is really tricky because every animal is an individual. How they're going to respond to treatment unless we try. And I mean, some are obvious if they're honestly in the process of us, that's a little bit obvious, but the majority of these poor babies are not in that situation. And I think that that's a place where veterinarians, we need to be super careful about guiding people to euthanize their pets prematurely, either for their emotional state or, more importantly, for the sake that the animal may have a chance with treatment. And we're going to make a judgment call and say, oh, forget it. This pet has chronic renal failure, we know it's going to die eventually anyway. Let's not have Mr. or Ms. So-and-so spend all that money because they're going to die anyway. And that's not a judgment for us to make.
What did you say, Lauren?
No, she brings up such a good, well, and it's only because we're starting to see a lot of stuff pop up with right? People walk into a vet, there's a critical situation, and typically, if it's a bigger emergency vet, or it's a vet that does these surgeries that are at least, I would say, $3,000 and above, an option for you to apply for this one and only this one credit card. This is the only credit card I know of, and we're starting to bring federal lawsuits based on that because it's basically a contract into duress. Like, I will not perform surgery on your dog, this life-saving surgery. Scott referred a woman to me who had an extremely urgent situation that the stomach had twisted. I forget what it's called, but the stomach was up twisted. And I'm sorry?
Gastric dilatation volvulus, GDV.
I don't even know that the dog should have had surgery at all based on the age and the other issues happening with the animal, but they would not touch this animal before she came up with $6,000. So it was a mix of her credit cards and then care credit cards. And then if the care credit didn't give her enough, they called and got care credit to increase the balance. So now, in order to make this minimum, I'll do surgery and save your dog profit, vets are starting to get involved in like collections, federal credit card stuff. And I'm cleaning up on it.
Wow.
You can't do it. If you have a credit card option in your vet office, I'd get rid of it because I'm coming for you. We are cleaning up on it because it's duress. These people are under extreme duress. And you're right. It's like, it's six in one, half dozen the other because people want to save their animals and they need resources. But if you push them too hard, that take a loan out direction and you don't give them all of their federally protected warnings and TILA disclosures, and now they've got this huge amount of debt at this insane interest rate. Maybe their dog lives, maybe their dog dies, but either way, they've gotten themselves into a situation that they couldn't have contemplated place with. And
So
that's the new game.
I had a case. Well, I say a case as if I'm an attorney, but I had which I'm not, or a veterinarian. I had a dog come in to get groomed one day, an old dog, 15 years old, poodle. In the middle of the grooming, he just collapsed. We did CPR on him, rushed him to the veterinary hospital, to the emergency room. They did their diagnostic and basically came back and said that a heart valve had ruptured. It was going to rupture at some time. It happened to happen on the grooming table, probably, maybe, possibly the stress of just being away from home. My point is back to the credit card. The owner ended up meeting me down at the emergency room. They wanted, I want to say it was like $16,000 to save this dog's life. And they were going to bag the dog. They'd given them all this stuff they were going to do for the 16-year-old poodle with a heart valve rupture. And I have this older woman who's on a very fixed income, and this is all she has in the world is this dog. And had they offered her that credit card at that moment, I guarantee you she would have signed off on it. And they would, and that I actually ended up calling a vet friend of mine in the parking lot just so that she had a second opinion. I know it wasn't much of one because we did it in the parking lot, but I knew they weren't going to be able to save this dog. But the vet had told her that there was a 50% chance they could save this dog's life, but it was going to cost all this money. And she didn't have the money. So you're right. It's like this horrible thing because this woman would have done it if she had that option. And I don't think they were going to save this dog. I just don't. But I don't know what the answer is because there probably are the cases where they can save the dog and maybe someone can afford to pay that off and the dog lives. But you're right, Lauren. I mean, how do you make some kind of law that doesn't allow that to happen?
I've got a Cavalier King Charles in end stage heart failure. It's like their jam because they're super inbred.
Right.
It only goes the one direction. It doesn't get better. But they told me for $15,000, I could ship in some doctors from Japan who have figured out how to something other with the heart valve. And I'm not.
Wow.
I guess I'm in a good enough spot where I can say, "Are you nuts?" And it puts you in this horrible position of like, if I just had a little more money, I could save my best friend's life. But I mean, in the case you're talking about, I don't think any amount of money would have saved that poodle.
I don't. And to be honest,
Chance very optimistic with a ruptured valve. Very optimistic.
Well, you'll love this, Dr. Cannizzaro. I called that veterinarian the next day because she opted to put the dog down. She had no other choice financially. That's the only reason she made that choice, was a financial decision. But I called the veterinarian the next day to ask her if there was any warning signs that I could have noticed at the check-in time to have prevented this. Her answer to me, and I quote, "Oh, no, that was one of the worst cases I've ever seen." Really? Because that's what you said to the lady. And I was sitting right there when you said, I didn't call her out on it. And I probably should have, but I didn't because I just didn't. It wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to bring the dog back. Nothing was. But she went from 50% chance of saving this dog's life to the worst case I've ever seen.
This offer of hope thing, I
That's
think, is
horrible.
the newest form of vet med mal. If you can afford this, I can offer you hope.
Yeah, we gotta
That's
we gotta do
the
something.
new.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's the move. We've talked about this before, of all the corporations coming in and buying up these small little mom and pop places, and you've got these money making businesses where you used to have the small mom and pop veterinarians like Dr. Cannizzaro, who just got into this because they love animals, and now we've got corporations that are looking over our animals.
To shareholders. That has nothing to do with veterinary medicine. They're answering to shareholders, and it's a one size fits all. So I really, you can slap me down if you want to, but I desperately want to ask Lauren a question. If you'd allow me to do that.
Oh,
Love to know if and when you'd be willing to take on cases for animals that receive vaccine injury. And what I mean by that, too, is veterinarians exercising really poor judgment about vaccinating animals that have obvious existing chronic disease and continue to vaccinate them. And I've asked attorneys in the past before about this, and I want to ask you, are cases like that, do you run away from them? Do you foresee a change in that? Because I see so much vaccine damage in my practice that it my heart. And it's another one of those things. Carrie and I did a podcast together about vaccine-induced disease by veterinarians, and it's just another one of those things that is, veterinary-induced disease. So I wanted to ask you that question.
So in vet med mal, in almost all cases, the standard I'm going to have to meet, right? So I bring my dog in with a cough, and you're like, oh, he's due for his rabies shot, by the way. And so we give him his rabies shot while he has a cough. So we already have, rabies shot cases I'll always take, because they're pretty tough for any animal of any age to undergo. I don't know if you've ever been bitten by a dog and had to go to the hospital and get a rabies shot, but they feel about as good as playing leapfrog with a unicorn. They hurt. So the answer is, with rabies shots, yeah, it's a clearance. With other things, probably not so much. And it's, here's the problem with vaccine. So in get a lot of the pet store stuff, right? You go to the pet sick. So whenever you bring in a dog in from wherever it was bred, if you're buying like one of those puppies, it's got to have shots when it comes into the state. When it comes into the state, it has to see a veterinarian that's licensed in that state and get another set of buying this animal. You should have like a little, they call it an OCVI, an official certificate of veterinary inspection. It says like Parvo, check, Giardardia, check. Assuming that they can give that shot at that time based on the age of the dog. Otherwise, they'll put like a little note, right? But it's a standard form. So I guess what sometimes happens, and you can tell me how this happens, I would love to know, but I guess what sometimes happens is that the pet store will promise the vet that they will provide those injections, and the vet says okay, and they'll sign off on the OCBI on the guarantee that the vet.
That's highly illegal.
Highly illegal?
Yes, highly illegal. The veterinarian has to be present for that health certificate form. Otherwise, that is actionable by the board for sure. So that,
that's where I usually. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
right. I want to qualify, and I'm not aware of this, but if you're not, then I'd like to make at least the listeners aware. Every vaccine insert says to be given to healthy animals only. If your dog, whether it's your dog is due for a rabies vaccine or not, and your dog has a cough, I wouldn't consider that or if they have seizures or attitude,
Or an ear infection.
congestive heart failure, or kidney disease, or allergic skin disease. Those are not, or diabetes or whatever. Those are not healthy animals. Now, what we need to understand, I'm going to call them the pharmaceutical company, has done a super job putting those inserts in the vaccines because they have absolved themselves from any liability and throw the veterinarian under the bus. So my question to you is, since the be given to healthy animals only, whether the rabies vaccine is mandated or not, we have a right as veterinarians that I know of, and I don't know all of them, to be able to postpone a rabies vaccine unless your pet is healthy enough to receive it. So if your pet receives vaccine damage, and I can't tell you how many times a dog will come in with a heart murmur or something like that, especially, and they're especially rabies vaccines that'll kill their heart off faster than anything, and receive a rabies vaccine, and then very shortly after, a couple weeks, a month, couple days, whatever it is, now in congestive heart failure, and now it's a 911. We're scrambling to try to save their life. It's clearly vaccine damage. So my question to you is, since we do have those, almost every single vaccine we purchase, nobody reads them, but I should know. And I'm not sure this gets such a pass. I get why it might get a pass with the board, because the board doesn't care if you vaccinate a sick animal. They don't frankly care.
See, I'm with you, Dr. Cannizzaro. I don't understand why it's not a cut and dry case. I brought in a dog because he was sick. Right. And while he was there, you gave him a vaccine that says not to give if my dog is sick. It seems like such an easy case to win. And then the dog dies.
Because you can find another vet to say that they wouldn't have done that. You have to find another vet that's going to say they have given that dog that immunization with that cough or whatever.
Yeah, in with there lies the problem.
I'm sorry?
I said no problem. You've got one.
Really?
But it has to be in the same
I'll give you a call after this. I'm like, we're going to talk, Doc. I just found a new best friend.
The veterinarian.
I'm not trying to be a vaccine Nazi here, but as veterinarians, we have a duty, good, sound medicine decision making for the welfare of the pet. Not, oh, you're here, your pet has a cough. Let's update them on all their shots, most of which, of course, they don't need. And we know that by American Hospital Association, AMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association, et cetera. I'd have no problem with that. Where it gets a little problematic is maybe if the reaction 6 months time or something like that. But if an animal with seizure disorder or any of the other disorders I already mentioned, they absolutely shouldn't receive. And in the state of Florida, for rabies in the state of Florida, and should, and every allopathic veterinarian should, if the pet's not well enough to receive them. We also can run rabies titers to try to assure that the pet and the public is protected. The other thing that I don't know if all your listeners know, but it's really important, is that the rabies vaccine is not about the health of your pet. It's about concern for human health. So they don't really care if your pet is sick, ill, or otherwise. They want a rabies vaccine no matter what. But so long as any state does allow us as veterinarians to assess the health of that animal prior to giving any vaccination, especially the rabies vaccine because it's the only one mandated, then we should exercise that right to write an exemption for that pet. And I urge my veterinary colleagues to do it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to put that upon the client.
Lauren, if that's all you need is a few veterinarians to say, I wouldn't have given that. Oh, I could give you 10 right now that will not vaccinate.
That is the only bar that any animal law attorney ever has. I will take on vet med mal cases up to my ears if I can find veterinarians who will say on the record, that was outside of the standard of care that I would have provided. I've got, in my 5 years of practicing animal law, I've gotten one case where a veterinarian wrote a letter saying this was insane. The veterinary board took that letter and found whatever that vet did to be completely outside of the realm of feasibility. And I think he got like a 6-month suspension or 6 months probation and a slap on the wrist. I mean, we're still the loss of the animal, but I mean, once have I gotten that.
Well, I'm with you, Dr. Cannizzaro. I think that, I think it's to watch. I know I mentioned this on the show before. I have a personal client of mine who brought her dog in for seizures and received a rabies vaccine during the time she was there. And the vet even said, I don't know what's causing the seizure. We'll wait and see if he has another one. Oh, by the way, while you're here, I'll give you a rabies vaccine.
It's
so
a pan thing. That's a Banfield jam. You bring in your dog for anything to ban or any, I mean, you're gonna
one size that get everything they never need, and then you get this nice monthly plan.
Give it to them, whatever you brought that dog in for, and that is bad news.
Well,
I mean, I don't need to call Banfield that specifically. That's just, it seems like that's the big, at least for me, that's the biggest one.
Yeah. Well, we got to educate people. It comes down to the pet parent. The pet parent being educated and knowing that if you bring your dog in for any sickness at all, you do not vaccinate, no matter what that veterinarian says. And you can, I'm not saying you can vaccinate later, but you need to as a pet parent, because the veterinarian isn't going to do it for you. So until, people like Dr. Cannizzaro and Lauren and are going to get these laws changed that you don't vaccinate, and some vets start getting sued for doing it, it's going to come down to the pet parent has to protect their own animals. You have to. And this is why we do this show, because it's not just about educating people about veterinary malpractice, but it's mostly about how to prevent veterinary malpractice. And so that's why we talk about this and let you guys know a little bit. Scott, we haven't even talked to you very much, but can you just run us through, as we're coming up on our hour? Actually, I think we're right about at it. Real quick, Scott, can you explain to everyone how the process works? So if we have people that are listening and they think they've been a victim of veterinary malpractice, how does Joey's Legacy work to help people?
Approach us, send us an email and say, I heard about you through so-and-so. I just lost my dog the other day, and I think there was some practice involved. So what we'll do is we'll ask you to email the records to Dr. Cannizzaro or one of our other vets, depending on if there's a special situation. For example, Dr. Cannizzaro has extensive ER experience, so if the pet parent's experience involves an emergency room, send them to Dr. Cannizzaro. Tom Nickel is an attorney, an animal attorney and a veterinarian in Florida. He's in Orlando. He's also got extensive surgery experience, so if it's normally send there. Also, if we get equine cases, obviously Dr. Cannizzaro can help with that. And so it just depends. But in any case, we will ask the person to email the records for a review. The veterinarian will decide whether or not they believe malpractice occurred. If so, they'll offer to write a letter, which would be taken to one of our attorneys like Lauren in the state of Florida for a review and legal options. It's really that simple. We've had now and then hardly at all. Vet number one will say nothing to see here. They'll come back to me and say, no. I'll say, okay, you want another opinion? Fine. Here's vet number two. Vet number two says the same thing, nothing to see here. And they come back to me and say, we'll keep going if you want. But of course, by the third vet, they've kind of acknowledged reality and nothing really did occur. So we give the person as many options as they want in terms of a review, and pretty well.
And Joey's Legacy has veterinarians and attorneys all over the country, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We have
So-
at least one in every state.
Okay.
We've got someone who's actually an attorney. I'm not sure what the exact term is. We've got a number of members that are in Australia, United Kingdom, Canada, all over the world for that matter.
A barrister.
A barrister. Australia also.
It's both, but you got to say it with an accent. A basta.
A bastard. Okay. I'll work on my Australian accent. But that's basically how it works. So and you know we had way back we had the university email me and said we heard about you. Can we pick the brains of your team? We have a case here that we don't know what to do with. And so our vet team, this was about 5 years ago, they stepped in and helped. So, you know, we help the world, and for a variety of reasons, they come to us. Some just want the vet review, some don't want the next level with the attorney. Most do. And we just had a case. If we have another minute, I want to talk about this case, Lauren. This just so because we had a developmental case in the state of Washington about months ago. I provided attorneys in Washington. Nobody wanted the case. I have animal law attorneys. Nobody wanted the case. So to the person, I said, "Did you ever have any luck?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, why don't you see if you can find an attorney?" And you alluded to this earlier, Lauren, from a property tort law perspective, rather than an animal law attorney per se, maybe a civil litigator that'll take the case. Well, lo and behold, she made a few phone calls, found one that was willing to take the case. I think sent a demand letter. They negotiated, and it was you know, they were successful. The point, obviously not for the money. Nobody particularly interested in the money. This is more of a send a message kind of a thing. A lot of our people donate to no kill show advocacy causes. But the point being, and we have had a few other cases where it's been approached from a property tort law. I know you said breach of bailment, which is kind of, I guess, under the same umbrella. Would that be right, Lauren? Yeah. So we're going to try to maybe pursue that. And I know Lauren already does. He's an attorney in Pennsylvania. Tell the member, I can't take your case. Your dog's only worth $100 in court. That's the old mentality from 100 years ago. And we've kind of broken barriers in the last 4 years and demonstrated that, well, your companion animal is worth well more than $100. So we are going to just continue to do what we do. And we're very gratified by a lot of people who have told us, we're glad they found us, and we help them quite a bit. So
if it's okay, Scott, I think we're going to take a few minutes just to kind of talk a little bit about how we really make this change happen. We've talked about it on the show before. This is something that Scott's been fighting for quite a few years and is doing a fabulous job of growing the community. But we really need to get laws changed. We need to get a documentary made, which we are working on a lot to try to get this documentary made. The Facebook group that Scott has provides so much to the people who are members of the Facebook group, which is one of our best resources to connect people together that we're using. but it's providing a lot more, right? We do these roundtables. You have access to the veterinarians, to the attorneys through the roundtables. Scott is now starting another podcast where the stories that are in the books are going to be talked about a little bit. We're providing information nonstop. Every day somebody's posting, whether it's one of the admins or whether it's Scott, not just veterinary malpractice stuff, but stuff on nutrition and things that can do. So the group itself is so valuable as a pet parent, whether you've been a victim of veterinary malpractice or you just want to make sure it doesn't happen to your pet, or you just want to learn more about maybe it's nutrition or vaccines. Like today, Dr. Cannizzaro was so nice to express her concern over the fact that vaccines are a big part of your dog's health and your cat's health. And so the reason I'm bringing this to your attention right now is because it's become pretty clear that in order for us to change the laws, which is our main goal here, we have to get this documentary made, and it's going to cost money. And unfortunately, we are before you tonight saying that the Joey's Legacy Facebook page is now going to be requiring donations of $5 to become a member. And so Scott wants you to be really aware of what all that $5 is giving you. And it's giving you these roundtables. It's giving you a lot of information. So there's lots of ways you can do it. You can do it as a one-time donation for the year, which is $60. You can do it as a $5 a month. I think Scott would even be okay with if you signed up on Amazon, which I've mentioned many times on this show. Sign up on Amazon as their Smile, and every time you buy something, money will go right into Joey's Legacy. So there's lots of ways. We hope that if you're watching this on Facebook, that you don't just leave the group. Try to find ways to help support the group so that ultimately either your pet who you've lost to veterinary malpractice, you leave behind something and say, look, I don't want this to happen to another dog, or be a part of preventing it to happening to another pet. And the best way to do that is for us to get the laws changed. And the only way we're going to get the laws changed is to get more people on board and more veterinarians going, oh, they're coming after me. I need to change the standards. I need to change who I am. If there's any vets watching and they hear Dr. Cannizzaro saying, look, stop vaccinating these dogs that are sick. This is how we grow. So, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about where we are with the documentary?
Absolutely. So actually today I had a very lengthy conference call with John Bafaro, who's the producer and director of this documentary, along with a member of our group who ironically is in the same business as John. So they were using industry specific terminology. I just kind of fuzzed out on that. I really didn't get what they were talking about, but I was happy to see they're both on the same page. So this member, and she can identify herself in a post if she wants to, but she has a lot of contacts in Hollywood. She knows a lot. John and this lady know a lot of celebrities that are animal advocates, or famous celebrities. So they're going to reach out, our good friends. So we're going to work together and try to move the documentary into a new space. But I can tell you that John has a very good relationship with PBS. So the first outlet that's going to be approached, we're fairly confident we can get it on PBS. Of course, they have several million viewers. And we're hoping for the release of the documentary in the spring of 2022. And we're going to just try to do the best we can to present our message and our mission to as many people as we can, and what needs to be exposed. The majority of veterinarians in the profession, like Dr. Cannizzaro and so many others, are ethical, honest. They do the right thing. They have a profound love for animals. They entered the profession for reasons, but then there are a few, of course, that we know that try to use shortcuts for financial gain, and unfortunately, a lot of times the patients don't do very well. so to speak. So we want, anyone that we want everyone to stay with us. Those that may not have the available funding to stay in the group, we've got a number of members who have already donated more than they were supposed to use this toward those folks that are having temporary financial difficulties and are unable to afford, even the $5 a month. They've got severe.
Yeah.
We want them to stay if they want to
stay.
We do. I think that's the thing, is it's really hard to come from a place of love and compassion for animals and for their pet parents, and also have to be able to say, look, we can't go forward. We can't just keep spinning our wheels without providing the change. And so it puts Scott in a really bad situation where he has to say, look, I care. I've been through it. He lost his pet to veterinary malpractice. He understands, but he understands so much so that he knows it needs to stop. And so when we're saying, look, I'm sorry, but we need you to donate now. Now's time. And we're trying to provide so much more to you. Scott and I talked about it right before the show, trying to provide so much more information to you. So I think it's really worth it to donate to this organization. And you have access. You have access to these great veterinarians, these great attorneys that are speaking up too. I told Scott before one of the last conversations, I said, look, my pet is never going to die from veterinary malpractice because I know what I know. And Dr. Cannizzaro's dog is never going to die from veterinary malpractice. It's never going to happen. She's here for your pets. And so that's why we're here. And
look at that dog. That dog's never going to know a bad.
But it speaks volumes to me, it just speaks volumes to me when I see someone, Dr. Cannizzaro, she is not here because her pet is going to die from veterinary malpractice. She's here to prevent your pet from dying from veterinary malpractice. And she gains nothing from sitting in front of you and saying, look, we need to change the laws. The only thing that she's gaining is she doesn't want to watch it happen anymore. I don't want to watch it happen anymore. I'm tired of hearing my clients tell me that their seizure dog got a rabies vaccine while she was standing there trying to find out why her dog's having seizures. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's heartbreaking. So we got to get the documentary made, and I just hope that people will see the value in donating your $5 a month. We need to raise $100,000. We're getting there. We want to get there quicker, because once the documentary is made, then it has to be aired. It has to be shown. We're talking a few years out. How many animals are going to die in that few years of us? That's why we're pushing faster. We need to move faster at this. So, Lauren, before I go, I know we are past our time, and I apologize, but I think this is important. Can you tell us the headway you have made? Because I want people to know that changes are happening. We're getting there. We just got to fight. So can you share with us really quick what just happened to you in court the other day?
Yeah. I think I'm really proud of it. So in Florida, law to show that your vet was not fit for sale. You go to a pet store, you pay $8,000 for a dog, you bring it home, the dog is sick. The pet store says, hey, don't worry about it. Just bring it to this vet and we'll pay for it. Well, that vet that they're paying for, up to now, needed to write a letter that said, dear, this animal was not fit for sale at the time of purchase due to fill in the blank illness, end quote, right? So because that vet is getting a direct flow of referrals from the pet store, that veterinarian is not going to write that letter. I got a response letter from a particular vet or a particular vet store, and the vet said, well, I'm not going to write the letter saying the pet was unfit for purchase because Giardia is treatable. I just spent $8,000 on a dog with a deadly disease, and you're going to tell Fine. Okay, cool. So this has been the problem is like we need these letters on letterhead from a vet with a specific language. And 2 weeks ago, I won a case that basically states it's case law that says that the diagnosis of the veterinarian is verification that the animal was not fit for sale. No more letter on letterhand whole thing that stores can request to get out of giving you your money back. That's done. Now just a vet says, yep, I diagnosed this and that's enough. And it sounds like a small thing, but I think that if it's easier for people to return sick animals to the pet stores, then the pet stores will stop buying animals from puppy mills because they'll have enough sick animals to sell and resell. And will be returned and they'll be losing tons of money. And, I kind of think it's a 1-2. And to people who exploit and make money off of selling sick animals to innocent consumers who buy these animals on credit oftentimes, which circles back into the stuff I was talking about earlier. But
the thing is
I think it's the biggest thing
Oh.
yeah,
it was awful.
it is each win, though it may sound like a little tiny win to someone outside of it, each win is leading us up to the big win, which is what we're here for. The big, they are not property anymore. Knock it off. They matter. Their illnesses matter. They shouldn't be sold in pet stores. Children aren't sold in stores, for God's sake, and bought in the backyards of whatever. So it's a huge win because it's a win.
Sentient. They feel they're sentient
Absolutely.
creatures. It's not a,
It's such a huge win, and each one of them is leading up. It is, and that's the reason I wanted to bring that up, is because sometimes people kind of get frustrated and say, this is never going to happen. No one cares. No, people are caring. People are listening. And guess what? Judges are listening, and they're caring, and it's mattering. And so we just keep on going. We're going to be here, every week. Scott, Joey's Legacy has something on here talking to you guys. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting together. And, we'll just keep giving everything we got. Dr. Cannizzaro, is there anything last you would like to say before we go?
I just really would like, don't be afraid to be an advocate for your pet. It doesn't feel comfortable for you. Honor your instincts. And it doesn't mean all vets are bad. But there are some things that behind the scenes, and if it doesn't feel right, question it. This is your baby. I mean, every one of my birds, dogs, cats, they're my family. I mean, they're not purses and toasters. So I know that either. So we as veterinarians, if you're not able to, we're probably not the vet that you want to be with. Be able to question and be able to fully understand what's before you. So if it doesn't seem, right, go with your instinct. You're probably not. And we're gonna pick up that vaccine. I'm in Florida too. I'm in Florida also. And I love her.
That's awesome.
Me too. I love Cavaliers. So I've been enjoying her Cavalier also. So
I feel like I should have had one of my 5 animals that are running around here on my lap.
Carrie, can I say one more quick thing?
Yes, please, Scott.
Our motto now is companion animals are family, not property. Needs to learn to advocate for their dog and their cat the exact same way they would advocate for their son or their daughter. It's the exact. They are equivalent. They are family. That's it.
No,
if the law doesn't feel that, we do. So hopefully the law will catch up with the reality that exists out here for each one of us.
It's going to.
Until then, here's to loopholes.
Use them. Use them in your favor.
And I thank you so much for doing this, Scott. You know, it's thing for people, and the hard work that Lauren puts in, Carrie puts in, that are willing to do this, and Scott for this work.
You know, you guys elevate Joey's legacy support group. You're the reason that we are as successful as we are, and without you, we're just lost. And that's why we love our vets and our attorneys, because things happen that in previous years weren't even thought about.
It's true. It's true. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go for the evening, but we'll be back. Scott, real quick, your first podcast that you guys are doing on the stories, when is that? What's the date on that? Next Sunday?
So every night, every Sunday night, it's either going to be you or me. So every Sunday night, someone's got a podcast to watch.
Yeah. So next Sunday is Scott's first podcast he's going to be doing. He's going to be sharing some of the stories that are in the book that Robb wrote. And if you haven't read it, I encourage you to read that book as well. It is a gathering of stories of animals that have died through veterinary malpractice. So a lot coming your guys' way. Just help keep supporting. And please, if you need an amazing veterinarian that you can trust, reach out to Dr. Cannizzaro. She does phone consultations. You can reach her. If you have law questions that have anything to do with your animals, please contact Lauren. She's just such a blessing for us to be able to fight this hard. And trust me, she's not making a ton of money doing it. There's no money to be made. I know this. I mean, what are you going to get? $10? But the love you could see just from winning that case she won. I'm sure she's not, a millionaire off of it, but just the winning, these are two great ladies that I think that you should reach out to if you need them. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to let you go. It's late, and you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll see you in a couple Sundays. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining.